Hey, it's the Chief Bonding with Board Games and RPGs, and this is a review of Banish the Snakes by GMT. We're going to go inside. I'm going to show you the map, the bits, briefly kind of go over how gameplay works, and then we'll come right back out and I'll give you my thoughts on how everything worked and looked and felt. So we're up over the map of Ireland for Banish the Snakes. I'm going to point out the key factors here. We have a High King, purple blocks, and there's two of them. The High King has influence, and I'll explain more of that in a second, over his four other kings, which are in these tan blocks, and there's only one of them. So tan blocks, and a tan block right there. And then each regional king has a chieftain, so a chieftain that they're in control of based by the little counties which are set up by these little dotted lines. Then the chieftains have influence over the people that are in their tribe. And these are the people that you're going to want to convert over into Christianity. And if you can convert all of the people, not necessarily all the chieftains or the kings, but all of the people, you'll win the game. So you also have these little druid markers in here, and the druids are hidden at first, but you will end up trying to convert them and flipping them, and then you will see their value. And you can't start converting in any region until you have started to get rid of these pagan priests, these druids. So we moved over to an off-board map. This is one of the ways you can lose the game. Paganism will be moving through Scotland, Strathclyde, and England, and if it gets all the way down to this area, you will lose the game. And there are cards that will be flipped that will cause this to happen, and as these places slide down and flip to their pagan side, you will grab their deck of cards, which sits off to the side, and you will shuffle them into the main deck, and they bring bad things, showing what happens as these areas lose Christianity. We have our draw deck here and our very first starting card, and the way this works is you will flip a card, you will place it down, and this little arrow right here tells you what part of the text on this card to read. There may be some text up in the top portion that would take effect, and then again you would look at wherever the arrow is, in this case a blue arrow, and you would read off whatever the effect is there. You would then do whatever that is, usually bad, but not always, and you would then finish your turn. Card would slide up. In this case, it goes back into the deck. This would come over, and you would repeat. Now, this is a little bit different card. This is one of the saint cards. And a saint card will be placed on your player board. So let's go take a look at the player board real quick. So the player board already has your starting saint on it with some of their special abilities. I'll take a photo of this, have it up in the corner so you can see it a little bit better. But St. Patrick gets a +1 to convert any people. I'll come back and show what that means in a second. And he can spend an action to bring another saint to his location. That saint card that we just saw up top, if you drew it, you can slide it underneath your player mat. And if or when St. Patrick passes away, as his zeal goes down, I would be able to bring in his replacement, and there would be yet a new special ability that this saint can do. Before we go much further, let me show you exactly how this player card works. So all this chess bishop marker shows is that it's my turn. So this is the player turn marker, and it just travels around the board. If you're playing with more people, or if you're playing solo but with many saints, you can track whose turn it is. When you begin your turn, depending on where your zeal is, I currently have it at its max at 4, that tells you how many different actions you can take in your turn. Many of your actions will do with trying to convert either the people or the chieftains or the regular kings or the high kings, or getting or converting a druid. So when you come in and you're going to convert the druid, you don't know exactly what it is. So you might want to prepare yourself, because the druids are actually really hard to convert. So you can say, I'm going to evangelize in the area I'm at, whatever the little region of Ireland that I'm at, I'm going to spend an evangelize action, and then maybe another evangelize action. So that would give me a +2 on this marker for whatever this druid ends up being. And in my very first contact with this druid, I don't know how strong they are, but they're generally pretty strong. So the one I drew is just a -2, but here's a -5, and there could be some -6s in there as well, I believe. But this would be on the board, but I would come in and show that he is a -2. And I evangelize twice, so that gives me a +2, allowing me to bring the slider over here, and the board tells you what you're going to need to be successful in this conversion attempt. Now, since I got it all the way over to the automatic, this druid would be defeated and would come off the board. But let's say I hadn't done any evangelizing at all. That would have been risky, but I would have needed a 2 just to break even and have nothing bad happen, a 3, 4, 5, or a 6 in order to be successful. Ooh. Or, as just happened here, if I rolled the clover, that would have been a fail. And if you fail in a conversion attempt, bad things happen to you. It hurts your zeal, and you actually come down. And dolmen, which are these little things, would go into that region. It's like a little stone altar or something, and it's a permanent -1 that affects your track for any other conversions in that area. So you can see when you do conversion attempts, you want to be successful. So an example would be as well, there's a hierarchy. If I'm trying to convert a king in a region, let's assume I've defeated the druid, that king is going to have his negative modifier, let's just say -2, but he's influenced by the high king. So let's say his modifier is -3. That would be a total of -5 on the track. And then I would have whatever modifiers, like my card, if I was working with the people, I would get a +1. Some people, if they're trying to convert leaders, get a +1. I would adjust whatever that would be. Maybe I go evangelize a little bit with some of my actions, and then it's back to rolling the dice if necessary. If I've managed to convert this chieftain, so let's say he was converted, you can see he's now a Christian, and he's actually going to assist me with a +1 to convert the people. When you start to convert the actual people that live in a region, you start from the left and work to the right. And when you set the board up, you pull these out blindly, but then you adjust them. The weaker the pagan strength of the people, the further they are to the left. So these people will get harder to convert completely as you move from left to right. There's also nasty cards that will come out and say, look at a region by name, and it'll sometimes convert their leaders, or it'll say the chieftain overthrows the high king, or the king in their area, or the king overthrows the high king, or it'll say get rid of 2 of the converted people or the folk and replace them with pagans off of the board. And if your marker, that would be my marker, is in the region, I take a zeal hit. While I'm doing all that, if my zeal goes all the way down to there, I have an option of making a final effort. It gives me a +2. It's like I'm dying, I'm on my deathbed, and I do a final, evangelization. I'll get a +2 to any kind of conversions that are going on in here, but then my saint passes away. When he passes away, his card will go away. We will put a little gravestone marker that gives that whole region back on the map a +1, but as a future action, I could have one of his acolytes kind of go into his grave and get a relic. Sometimes they were like the saint's hand, so his hand might become a relic. Now this relic, you saw I had a +1 for his gravestone, so that applies to that whole region. But if I tried to convert that, I would again blindly convert it to a relic. It could have been a +1, a +2, or a +3. So here's a +3. So there's this randomization. You don't know exactly what it's going to be. So you're like, well, if I got a guaranteed +1, why make the risk? Well, if you get a relic like that +3, I can now have my new saint carry that relic around with me. So now I would have an automatic +3, assuming I got the good one, everywhere I went in terms of my conversions that I'm trying to do. It would make me way more powerful. So again, we can see I'm in this region. We can see the druid has been removed. There's also a chance that I could spin an action and I could start to develop a church. So a level 0 church just means the area's been prepared. Now that can be helpful because there's nasty cards that say if there's no church, you'll put a druid back in there. But on subsequent turns, I could continue to upgrade, and an upgraded church to the cube would give me a +1 in all conversion attempts as well. And let's say maybe another saint was in the area, or I spent another turn here. I could spin an action, and I could upgrade again. Now I would have a +2 to my conversions. And I could repeat that on a future turn. You can't upgrade them all in one turn. It's like they take time to build. But I could even get a big old cathedral in here, and I would have a +3 to all my conversion attempts. Now, it can be a little risky. Some cards will come in and destroy your churches, burn them down, or they just get old because they're not being taken care of. But you can see there's actions that you can build these churches, which will have you or help you convert regions. If I was going to be converting some of the people here, I already showed you, it's a -3, so I could track that on my board if I needed to. I've got a +1 from my converted chieftain. He's now a Christian. A +3 from this. So right now I would have 4, assuming St. Patrick, who gets a +1 for converting peoples, I would have a +5. So when I go to convert this -3, it's automatic. So I got him down to 0. I would just need to spend an action and he would be converted. I could spend then another action. This one's a 5. So we already know again I have a +1, +3, 4. He gets a +1. That would be yet another automatic. So I could just work my conversions of the people now that I've spent all this time maybe evangelizing in the area, building a cathedral in the area. My particular saint has a +1 for converting the people, and you can see how this works. But again, the very nice thing is on the hierarchy, if I go to convert this chief, not only would I take in the negative modifier of a -2 for this chief, but he is influenced by this king, who's also a -2. So my attempted conversion of this chief, -2 for a total of 4, that first conversion is going to be a little bit tough. And that is the gist of how this works. All right, so you understand the play. The best way I can describe this, and the way I described it to my wife when we were going to sit down, is we've played Pandemic, the board game. It has that feel of us, or when I was playing it by myself, me and the saints I was playing against the system. And the system being those cards, beautifully done, we'll come back to that, those cards and how they are sending you troubles or miracles sometimes, or whatever is going on, and how the people keep shifting in, or the chiefs or the kings or the leaders or the high king, shifting into Christianity and then back out, and then in and back out. And that struggle to win, that primary win condition of convert all of the people into flock. They're all members. You don't of Christianity. You don't have to necessarily, although it would help, get all the chiefs and all the kings or high king to shift, but you have to get those people there. And then the other big loss factor, that timer, not only the deck's a timer, but that march of paganism as it moves, it comes down. The stress was there playing alone, and I'm spending a bunch of time in my head trying to think, how do I do this? What do I do over here? But when I was playing with my spouse, it was like, oh, we can't get this card. And then even when we lost, we drew that card, she was like, pretend like we didn't. How many turns would it have taken for us to win? The only other time I've seen that done is when we played Pandemic, where you'd be like, okay, we lost, but we're invested. how many card flips would it have taken for us to win? So that was really interesting. We lost, still fun. She mentioned wanting to play it again, but it was also, hey, okay, we've lost, but keep it going. Keep it going. How long? Loved it. Love it. So the cards and the particular area on the arrow and the color and where it points to, great. That just gives it tons and tons of replayability. It looks cool. It feels good and allows that deck to do so much more. You know, some of the cards, it doesn't matter what the arrow is, this is what's going to happen. Or maybe it's just broken down into two. But some of them, it's fully fleshed out. And if you get a real lucky break, what they had, the disease, you're curing it, and it helps everything go on. So it's a real nice factor. You may know the card, but you don't know exactly the color that's going to trigger or how it's going to trigger on the next card to come in. Cards are great, art's beautiful. So coming into the art. The art in this game is top-notch. It feels Gutenberg-ish, which is obviously what they're going for. The period of the time, it feels like that gilded book, that gold inlay. It's gorgeous. The cards look pretty. Everything looks nice. The feel of it definitely carries through, and it's just pleasing to the eye. The bits in and of themselves, this game could have been done with cardboard punch-outs. I think it would have been perfectly fine. You know, you could have made the king counters bigger and the high king even a bigger counter or something. You could have done it that way. But GMT knows how to do the blocks, even though blocks are getting expensive and you have to put the stickers on them. You get that visual height thing of what's going on the board. All that matters to win the game is that you convert all of the people over to Christianity. But having the layers displayed on the board gives it a real nice, easy, you know, hey, what's going on? Who's influencing who? The board is very attractive. Everything's very easy to tell what is a full region, where are the different counties separated. So again, everything you would expect, GMT knows how to do this. They made it really, really easy to understand the segments of the board and the way the influence comes down. The helper card, it looks really cool. It maybe takes a second to realize this king influences, high king influences the king influences the chief influences the people. But if you've read the rule book, the card's a nice little simple understanding for that. And really, I spent no time on that at all. It was more on like, what are my options? The player board, having the little slide rule area. I know it's not a slide rule, but hey, here's the negative modifiers. Here's the positive. I'm pushing it back. It's an automatic win. Click. Quite honestly, you don't really have to do that after you've played for a while. You can just look and say it's automatic, flip. I'm doing another action, flip. The rule book, though, is awesome and also very attractive. As many of you know, I love the splash page. Splash pages, here's the game in real life, set it up like this, and here's what all these things mean. So if we reference, you know, a high king, I have a letter that says that's the high king and that's where it goes. So easy, set it up, and you can really play through. So the rules are great here. Once I was done, I was like, well, this is super easy. So the gameplay itself, it definitely felt like Pandemic, where there's this make progress, lose it, go back, circle back, make more progress, lose it. And as you get to know some of the cards or some of the regions, you'll know that, I don't know, is it Vikings or whatever are invading into the north? You better watch what you're doing up there. And we were chasing our tail a little bit, but it felt thematic. It felt like it's, you know, the idea that the people further to the left are set up that they're easier to convert. Well, those are the people that are easier to convert. And if you're going to convert everybody in a county, it's going to get really tough on those last group of folks that you're trying to convert. And the way you're basically reading the counters left to right, it's perfect. I love that element of it. And you know, if you lose a saint, they become, you know, a +1 with their gravesite. But if you grave rob and steal the hand of the saint or whatever it is, you carry it around with you. Hopefully it's not a 0, but now you're really bringing that positive plus power is what I like to call it. The odds will be in your favor. If anything, the bling of the game goes over the top. I kept thinking, do I need to have a bishop to do the turn order? Not really. It mostly helped in the solitaire game because I'd be sitting there, I'd go take a break and go, whose turn was it? Oh, that person's. So looks great, off the charts. Rules, put out great. Definitely covering everything you need and walking you through the play with the helper cards. The bits, awesome. Everything here feels good. It's going to take you a while to set it up with the stickers, but very fun and enjoyable. And I liked it two-player, almost for different reasons from solo. Solo, it was definitely a problem inside my head, like, what do I do? What do I do here? This person, who do I trade cards with? But I was kind of, you're in control of everything. And when I played with Liz, my wife, it was so cool because I had a saint. He gave a +1 to any other saints he was with. And then I picked up a relic that was +2. So I myself was +3. And she was like, come down here and join me and we'll get to work. It was very fun to play, and the game moves really quick. When you first look at it, you're kind of like, what's going on? But we were like 2-3 turns in, and she was, oh yeah, I got this. It's just, how are we going to do it, and what are these cards going to throw at us? That's a hit, baby. That's a hit. Chief, bonding with board games and RPGs. This is a review of Banish the Snakes, and it is good. Very nice production, sturdy box. The art is unbelievable. You'll enjoy all of the bling appeal, as long as you don't mind putting stickers on blocks. And I don't. Command and colors, baby. Command and colors. See you guys. Bye.